Many thanks for joining us. This is News Now on TV360 Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari has rejected 5 bills transmitted to him by the National Assembly. The bills are Nigerian Film Commission Bill, Immigration Amendment Bill 2018, Climate Change Bill 2018, Chartered Institute of Pension Practitioners Bill 2018, and Digital Rights and Freedom Bill. The President's decision to withhold assent to the bills was conveyed in a letter read during plenary on Wednesday. The President's reasons for not assenting to the bills, as contained in the letter, range from conflicting and duplication of duties of existing government agencies, their destructive nature, as well as lack of clarity. Now, this development brings to 13 the number of bills Buhari has rejected in 2019. Meanwhile, there was a rowdy session on the floor of the Senate today as lawmakers debated the alleged militarization of the just concluded 2019 general elections. While the argument followed a motion brought before the Senate by Senator Dino Melaye and 6 other senators who condemned the deployment of military for the polls. Now, Onya Dekule tells us more.
I have the floor.
The role of the military in the conduct of the 2019 election is the reason for this rowdiness. The upper chamber says it will investigate all perceived inconsistent application of electoral laws by the Independent National Electoral Commission in the polls. Senator Dino Melaye in his motion warned that Nigeria's democracy is being threatened by the illegal deployment of the army during elections, in utter disregard of the extant laws of the land. Melaye says President Muhammadu Buhari should consider it necessary to sign into law the Electoral Act Amendment Bill to help put the electoral process on the right path. Lawmakers were sharply divided along party lines as they argued the matter.
My respected colleagues, the Senate is concerned that the extreme militarization of democratic electoral process and the inconsistent application of electoral laws by INEC in matters of national elections pose serious threat to our democracy and has security implications that must be nipped in the bud. The challenges of elections in Nigeria have been here for a long time with us. It behoves us to look at those issues that we think and are convinced that truly require intervention by the legislature. When and if we're able to do that, we would have provided solution to the issues that Senator Dino Melaye has raised.
On the 23rd, at the general elections, has been properly captured by Senator Dino Melaye. Whatever we're going to say will just be simple additions to this. But Mr. President, we're Nigerians. We're in Nigeria. And for this Nigeria to be a place for all of us, we must be able to speak truth to power. What is wrong is wrong. What went wrong during the elections are fundamentals which must be properly addressed. Whoever is citing what went wrong at the general elections for partisanship is unfair to Nigeria and Nigerians, and is unfair to the future of democracy in Nigeria. And because of this, Mr. President, we must be able, as elected members and representatives of the people, be able to tell the truth where it should be.
One, I want to commend the House of Reps, who took the bull by the horn. They had discussed this issue as legislators. Excuse me, I don't want assistance. And they came up with a resolution. Excuse me. Number two, sir, as I commend the House, I also want to commend the Chief of Army Staff, who for the benefit, for the image of Nigeria and the military, knew that any allusion, any allegation must be looked into. And he took the bull also by the horn by setting up a committee to look into the involvement of the military. We all know that legally, constitutionally, be it Electoral Act, the military, what please now? The military has no responsibility in election because their function is protection of our territorial boundaries.
I want to humbly suggest that we amend that prayer to put an ad hoc committee, a very powerful ad hoc committee, to look into these issues, because the issue raised, honestly speaking, is a very, very serious issue that needs to be looked into.
President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, who presided over the session, doused the tension. He stressed that the motion was well brought forward and should be devoid of partisanship.
I urge the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to give assent to the recent amendment to the Electoral to ensure a level playing field and adoption of equal standards in national election for a strong and peaceful democracy in Nigeria. Those in favor of prayer 4, say aye. Those against say nay.
The Senate eventually adopted the motion by Senator Melaye and others and charged the Senate Committee on INEC to look into the inconsistencies in the conduct of the 2019 election. Uyi Adekunle, TV360, Nigeria.
INEC has announced that the supplementary governorship election scheduled for March 23rd in Adamawa State might not hold as planned. The electoral body gave this indication in Yola on Wednesday when it said it would abide by the ruling of the Adamawa State High Court expected on Thursday, March 21st. The court had last week granted an injunction stopping the supplementary election but fixed March 21st for hearing of the motion for the interlocutory injunction. The resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa State, Kasim Gaidem, speaking at a press briefing, said although INEC had made preparation for the supplementary governorship polls, the conduct of it would depend on the outcome of the court process on Thursday. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has challenged powers of a federal high court in Abuja to stop the collation and announcement of the Bauchi state governorship election results. INEC, through its legal department, is insisting that the court has no jurisdiction to interfere in post-election litigation, which can only be decided by the Election Petitions Tribunal. The electoral body had declared the governorship election in Bauchi inconclusive after the margin between the two leading candidates was said to be less than the number of cancelled votes. It, however, made a U-turn and decided to resume the collation of results of the election in the state, a decision which was opposed by the APC and the incumbent state governor. The Emergency National Executive Committee meeting of the People's Democratic Party have held an emergency meeting in Abuja, the nation's capital. The meeting, chaired by the national chairman of the party, Uche Secondus, follows the party's petition to the National Judicial Council over what it called the violation of the Constitution and Electoral Act by Justice Eko Nyang of the Federal High Court, halting the collation of election results in Bauchi State. It also comes a day after the party officially filed a petition challenging the re-election victory of President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Election Tribunal. The meeting was attended by the President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara. Meanwhile, governorship candidates of the People's Democratic Party in Lagos State, Jimmy Agbaje, has denied dumping his party after the just concluded elections. Now, Agbaje had emerged distant second in the March 2nd governorship election, trailing the candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. This comes amid speculations on Wednesday that Agbaje might have dumped the PDP. But in a reaction, Agbaje's spokesperson, Modupe Ogumbayo, in a statement said his principal was still a card-carrying member of the PDP and has not resigned his membership. He said Agbaje was committed to the PDP, which he believes is the best party that will address the yearnings of Nigerians. Justice Inyang Eko of the Federal High Court in Abuja has denied an application filed by the governorship candidate of the African Action Congress AAC by Epomagbo Awara seeking to stop the collation of results for the March 9 Rivers State governorship and House of Assembly elections. Justice Ewo held that the application brought before the court is such that the court cannot grant without hearing the other party. But the judge, after listening to the submission of the plaintiffs, chose not to grant their prayers. Instead, the judge ordered the plaintiffs to put the respondents on notice on the suit and fix March 25th for both the plaintiff and respondent to appear before him to present their position. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, says the Nigerian Air Force will provide logistics in the forthcoming supplementary elections. While speaking at a meeting with senior officers of the force in Abuja, Abubakar said over 120 Air Force personnel are involved in the distribution of election materials across 31 locations in the country. The NAF chief also promised a better synergy with the electoral body in distributing more electoral materials for the supplementary polls. Now, INEC will be holding supplementary elections in 6 states, including Bauchi, Plateau, Kano, Sokoto, Benue, and Adamawa State. Zamfara State Governor Abdulaziz Yari is calling for collaboration among security agencies in Nigeria. After a security meeting, Yari says that Nigeria's battle with insecurity is worsened because the country is surrounded by forests, which provides a safe haven for terrorists to hide. He adds that the country is currently investing heavily in arms and collaboration with other countries to make Nigeria safe again.
Our security chiefs are meeting quarterly to review the performance and to review what the gain and the loss, and as well our counter brothers in Maradi from Niger Republic are also doing the same. So I think the operation need to be done simultaneously, because the issue is a forest. We are living on the forest. When Katsina make airport to put pressure on the bandits, the next place is Zamfara. If Zamfara put pressure on them, the next is Kaduna or Benungwari or in Niger State. So we have those issues. So indeed, there's a need of collaboration, and also the soldiers need to be really supported with the equipment that can test the time. Because major problem, yesterday when we were having a security meeting, we can understand the constraint of the soldiers ranging from army to those that are available there. So we are definitely going to work, more especially me that I'm doing my full tenure now, to ensure that within this month and days that left, we lived a peaceful state for those that are coming in as a new administration. Indeed, yeah. The federal government has already given procurement contract to intergovernment transaction with the United States, with China, and some other European countries for this equipment. If you can remember, sometimes 2018, Nigerian Governors Forum provided $1 billion for support of equipping the security agencies, and I believe federal government is doing something about it, and the equipment will come into the country, and then it's our hope that this equipment will be used so as that the worry situation that we are can become a history.
The Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, Julie Okadonli, has raised alarm over what she described as new tricks employed by human traffickers. Okadonli, who was speaking during an interactive meeting with the Edo State Task Force Against Trafficking in Benin City, lamented that the menace appears to have heightened despite measures to curb it. The NAPTIP DG alleges that there's a lot of orphanage trafficking going on as some traffickers abduct children from the local communities on the streets and put them in orphanages. She, however, urged all stakeholders to be vigilant as they go about their duties, while also dismissing the notion that only underage girls can be victims of trafficking. Every March 20th since 2013, the International Day of Happiness is celebrated in 193 UN member states, one of which is Nigeria. On this day, emphasis is placed on the happiness of citizens in each of these countries, and this next report narrows it down to Nigeria with a focus on the factors responsible for an individual's happiness. Fidelia Aguncha tells us more.
Despite prevailing economic, security and other social challenges, Nigerians remain some of the happiest people in the world, ranking 85 in the 2019 World Happiness Index. Research has shown that mental health is a major contributing factor to happiness, having even more impact than wealth. In 2019, the country was ranked the 91st happiest nation of the world and 5th in Africa. That same year, the Federal Ministry of Health raised alarm that over 30% of the country's population were suffering from some form of mental illness. But is there really a relationship between happiness and mental health, and what factors influence this state of mind?
The happiness index is important for us to, as mental health professionals, as a yardstick to know what exactly is going on in the general or collective ambience, of people's emotional well-being. We believe as professionals that environmental factors are very huge. Take Nigeria, for example. A lot of people would say, I remember working on a study and wanted to see the relationship between poverty and mental health. We wanted to know, a lot of people will say, oh, because the economy is hard, so many people are not happy. But that's really not it, because the US, for example, we believe is the largest economy, but they are the highest consumers of antidepressants, right? So that tells you that the economy really would not determine, the level of happiness of an individual. So it's really not about the economy. Yes, there is a relationship between poverty and mental health, but you see, mental health is a more encompassing a narrative.
If about 60 million Nigerians are suffering from some form of mental illness, then it arguably means about 1/3 of the nation is unhappy. Priscilla says to effectively address this, emphasis should be placed on mental health education.
We need to begin to teach people again, and that's why people like us have dedicated our life's work, to educating people, on positive mental health habits. I run a campaign, for example, called the Peak Network, and we teach, it's a curriculum. We teach people how to cope with stressors. We teach people, it's PEAK, P-E-A-K. So P is preparation for life. The things you should know that should mentally and emotionally prepare you for life. Life like the death of a loved one. When we say life happens, what are the things you need to know? Things that can teach you mental resilience, how to cope, with this stress.
What then can be done to improve happiness in Nigeria? This expert says aside improving the cost and standard of living, the government needs to pay more attention to improving mental health care.
The government, I would say, the role of the government is learning, to include mental health experts in policy making so that we're able to make the Mental Health Act, for example, that we're using right now, is not used anywhere else. 1980 something. That's really sad. So there is a need to review all of these things to come up with policies that are, that are helpful to the populace, and also come up with, for example, the budget. Mental health does not even have up to 1% of the national budget. How many mental health facilities do we have? We expect that every state government hospital, general hospital, should have a psychiatrist.
The theme of this year's World Happiness Day is built around collective happiness in spite of individual differences. Finland again ranks top on the list of happiest countries in the world after scoring high on social support, healthy life expectancy, freedom to make life choices, generosity, and perception of corruption. Fidelia Aguncha, TV360, Nigeria.
You're watching the news now on TV360 Nigeria. We'll bring you more updates after this.
Corruption not in my country.
Madam. Madam, welcome. Okay, madam, no worry. When you deliver the balance, we'll give you the goods.
No problem, no problem. All right, so now well done.
Thank you. Hey, Oga, I still say she don't bring money. Maybe we'll use this one for her now.
She wants mahogany, not white wood. Oga, our work now to join wood together, deliver whatever to customer, put the remaining profit for pocket.
Abba! This is corruption, not in my country. Corruption, not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
You're welcome back, and we have Fidelia Aguncha for business news. Hello, Fidelia.
Hi, Aneta.
So after all the back and forth between Nigerian workers and the federal government, it seems this is all coming to an end. The Senate has approved 30,000 naira for the new national minimum wage, but it's not all good news for Nigerian workers, is it, Fidelia?
No, it's not, because the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udo Udoma, had hinted that the federal government is likely to increase value-added tax to enable it fund the new national minimum wage. Well, as usual, this statement has sprung reactions from experts across the country. They are arguing that an increase in the value-added tax would have negative effects on the citizens and the Nigerian economy at large.
We have to look at government spending, and we ask questions. Why do government need all the time to be giving tax burden to the people? Why can't government look inwards? There are a lot of expenditure of government that are not necessary.
Proposal to increase VAT will further impose new challenges for businesses, because already the operating environment is a very difficult one in terms of cost. The production environment is also very difficult. Many businesses are grappling now with issues of survival and sustainability. And because of the way we administer VAT in this environment, it does not exempt any component of the value chain, from raw materials to intermediate product to final goods. VAT most often times applies to all levels of the value chain.
The Debt Management Office has said the federal government will auction 100 billion naira worth of bonds by subscription on March 27. A circular by the DMO showed the breakdown of the figure to include a 40 billion naira 5-year reopening bond that would mature in April 2023 and be offered at 12.75%. Another 40 billion naira 7-year reopening bond to mature in March 2025 and be auctioned at 13.53%, while another 20 billion naira 10-year bond would mature in February 2028 and be auctioned at 13.98%. According to the DMO, the settlement date for the auction is March 29, 2019. Oil prices edged up on Wednesday, supported by ongoing supply cuts led by producer club OPEC and U.S. sanctions against Iran and Venezuela, although gains were limited by concerns over economic growth. International Brent crude oil futures were at $67.79 a barrel, up by 18 cents, while U.S. crude futures were at $59.09 a barrel, up by 6 cents. Crude prices have risen by almost a third this year, pushed up by a move led by OPEC to withhold around 1.2 million barrels per day of supply, as well as by U.S. sanctions against oil exporters Iran and Venezuela. Well, up next, the review of the stock market. After this, stay with us. Well, the bears again dominated the Nigeria Stock Exchange today, making the market close in the red for the 6th straight day. This time it is dropping by 0.13%. The all-share index in the start of trading this week has dropped by over 80 points, while the market capitalization has declined by about 40 billion naira. Let's now look at those responsible for these losses seen in the market. And as we can see, the consumer goods sector took the biggest hit from the losses seen in the market today, as they are posting two equities on the losers chart, which are Nestle and Cadbury. But it was also a bad day for Better Glass and Stanbic IBTC, both declining by 8.92% and 1.67%. While on the flip side, that is the gainers chart, we can see that the banking sector is taking the lead. And in fact, this is because the banking sector was the only index to close with gains today. Every other index closed in the red. And even though with that, Dangote Flour from the consumer goods sector is still making the top gainers chart, GlaxoSmithKline and USCN also had a swell day. While in summary, we can see that 3,419 deals exchange hand in the market, and they're valued at 2.163 billion naira after a total volume of 223.659 million shares were traded. Let's now move on to the global stock exchange. We can see that the FTSE and Dow are closing in the red. The FTSE just maybe because of the whole delay in the Brexit deal. As March is approaching an end, Theresa May, that's the UK Prime Minister, is actually looking at extending the deadline for Brexit, and I think this actually affected investors' confidence in the FTSE, while the Dow is declining by 0.74%, and the Nikkei is the only equity or the only market actually to be closing with gains, recording gains today, and that's a 0.20% rise seen by the Nikkei from the Asian Stock Exchange. Well, that is from the world of business. It's back to Annette Felix.
Thanks for that update, Fidelia. Elsewhere in the world, global rights group Amnesty International is accusing the United States of violating international human rights law by conducting airstrikes in Somalia, which killed several civilians. The U.S. Africa Command, also known as AFRICOM, usually announces after every airstrike that no civilian casualties were recorded. But Amnesty says it has gathered photographic and eyewitness accounts that prove otherwise. According to Amnesty, in just 5 airstrikes that it studied, 14 civilians were killed and 7 more were injured. It noted that the victims' families, communities have no effective means of reporting these incidents, adding that such cases might constitute war crimes. The U.S. has, however, denied the accusations. Now, British Prime Minister Theresa May is writing to formally ask the European Union to postpone the Brexit end of March deadline to June in order to keep from getting out of EU with no deal. According to PM May's speaker, the request will be delivered today and it will include an option for a 2-year extension of the UK departure. It is unclear if EU officials will accept the request, but so far, Angela Merkel has been in favor of more talks with the Brits. Most probably, Theresa May's request for an extension will be discussed later in the week during the scheduled EU summit, and all 27 members will be needed to agree on the decision. In sports, ahead of Friday's 2019 African Cup of Nations qualifier against the Pirates of Seychelles in Asaba, the Super Eagles have begun training for the first time on Tuesday evening. Although Electoral's men have booked a place in Egypt's 2019, they will be hoping to end the qualification series on a high note. Friday's game will be seen as one of the 3-time African champions' build-up matches for the biennial competition in the North African nation. Spanish goalkeeper Iker Casillas has expressed his desire to retire at FC Porto after extending his contract with the Portuguese club till 2020. The 37-year-old has made 149 appearances for Porto since his move from Real Madrid in 2015 and also won the Primera Liga title last season. The shot stopper will turn 38 in May, and his new deal, 1 year plus an option of another, could take him to the age of 40 when Casillas says he will retire. And that's the world update at this time. Thanks for watching the newsroom on TV360 Nigeria. Bye for now.